Recording.
Excellent. So let's call the meeting to order. It is 12:02, and I'm going to call the Vermont Community Broadband Board meeting of its regular meeting of October 14th, 2024 to order. We have all board members in attendance. Christine, do you want to run through staff?
Yeah, we have Ginny Raboyne, Rob Fish, Christina Sweet, Heron Herzog, Tony Clitheroe, and I'd like to introduce JB Ledoux. JB is the new finance person from the PSD. JB, if you can say hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Nice to finally see you all.
Yep, JB is going to be working closely with Christina and our budget, and I think we've really, next time you see a budget presentation, you'll see we've really tightened things up. It's really nice to have you on board, JB. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And Alexi will not be attending.
I'm sorry, can people hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Laura.
I cannot hear anybody else.
Oh.
Can you hear me? Anyway, Alexi will not be attending, so Christina and I will be filling in for him because he is very sick. He's going to see a doctor.
Okay. Let's wait for, I'm sorry to hear that news about Alexi and hope he recovers quickly. But let's wait for Laura to come back in. Hopefully the microphone will be working when she comes back on. Let's give her another second or two. Here we go. Can you hear us now, Laura? Excellent. The classic IT move, turn it off and come back on. Good job. First on our agenda is first action item for us to do is approve the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as provided in our board packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Is there any discussion or changes for the agenda? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I abstain.
Okay, Holly abstains. Motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. Let's move to minutes. Let's first go to September 9th, 2024. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as provided in our board packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Discussion of the board meeting minutes. I'll just note one typo on item 6, page 5 of our PDF packet. Top line, there's the word the before oversight. The word the doesn't belong there, so just that one typo is to take that out. Any other changes to the agenda or comments on the agenda from September 9th? Not agenda, minutes from September 9th, 2024.
I am abstaining again.
Okay. All those in favor of the minutes with that one change, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those abstaining? Holly's abstaining.
Yes.
So it passes 4-0 with one abstention being Holly because she was absent that meeting. Minutes pass. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from September 30th, 2024. I'll note that we had 2 board members not present. I believe Laura and Brian were not in attendance at that meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve those minutes, but need either Holly or Dan to second that.
I'll second.
Thank you, Holly. Any discussion on those meeting minutes? Christine, I'll just request that we add to the meeting minutes for September 30th, the board members that were not in attendance, just so the record reflects.
Okay,
Laura and Brian were not in attendance at that meeting. Any other changes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of those board members in attendance for September 30th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Okay, we've got Brian and Laura as abstentions, and the motion passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. All right, so that brings us to public comment, Christine, and I'll turn that over to you to run.
at this point in the meeting, anybody from the public can speak. Raise your hand. I will call on you and you'll have 3 minutes to say your piece. Anybody interested in speaking in public comment? Okay, not seeing anybody. We can move on. Nope, you're on mute, Patty.
All right, just was saying that, just remind folks that we have two items of public comment. So if anybody would like to say something at the end, we also have another opportunity for public comment. Let's move on to item 4 of the agenda, which is the KPI scorecard update.
Yep, I would like to do this in executive session because we'll be talking about confidential information related to the CUD's competitive nature. And I would like to invite staff to join in executive session.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we move to executive session per 1 VSA section 313A6, which protects records exempt from the access to public records law. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll take Dan. He was there first. Dan is a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we move to executive session with a vote 5-0.
Okay, Jenny, you'll be moving us into executive session with staff.
We'll just sit tight.
Yep, you'll be moved
Yep.
in 10 seconds.
It's
Okay.
happening now.
Laura, how are things weather-wise down in your neck of the woods?
It was raining pretty good last night. We could
Yeah.
use it. It's been pretty dry. It
Mhm.
was windy. Oh,
Yeah. Any snow in the forecast for you?
I think there is tonight or tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, look out, here we have snow in October, and then we probably won't have any when we really want it in January.
I just got a new pair of skis, Patty, so that guarantees we'll have a terrible winter.
Oh, exactly. That is how it always goes.
Yeah.
Always.
They're coming for you, Brian.
I haven't heard that since I was a teenager.
Well, what's weird is I have assigned you to the room and it is not pulling you over. So I am working on it.
If you want to send me a link, I can do that too, whatever's easier.
Okay.
Hey, Jenny, it looks you're managing the rooms. You'll need to move Brian over. I think Brian might be in a different email address than normal, perhaps. Not sure, but
Um,
he's not in the executive session though.
no, I understand that. I've been
Cool.
trying to move him over. Um, and for whatever reason, he is assigned, but he is not moving.
Brian, do you have an option at the top of your screen that says rooms?
I don't.
Okay.
Did I log in with the wrong Teams account, perhaps?
It's certainly possible.
Yeah,
Um,
I could have blown that.
we can just add your other email address
Oh.
potentially.
I mean, should I?
Oh, never mind, you're there.
Ginny, I'm back in the right account. I hope maybe that'll help.
Okay, let me see what I can do.
That was my big bad.
All right, do we have everybody back?
Checking now. Yes, we have. Yes, we do.
Okay. So we are back in public session after going into executive session for the KPI scorecard update. The only action item taken in executive session was we're going to have staff look at developing some benchmarks for KPIs and bring some ideas back to us for the November meeting. It's the action taken in executive session. All right, let's now move on to item 5, which is the Maple Broadband Addison County CUD construction grant amendment.
Yeah, and I will turn this over to Christina Sweet to handle and substitute for Alexi. The intro to this is that there are, Maple Broadband has finished their construction. We're in the middle of inspection now to look at where they are in the grant, but they have some remaining funds that they want to get to use to get to some additional addresses. And I'll turn it over to Kay to say what you want to say, if you want to say anything public session, but we'll need to move into executive session because we'll be talking about specific addresses, and that could result in a competitive issue when it comes to the BEAD program.
Thank you, Christine, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, as Christine already mentioned, this application is for Maple Broadband to use approximately $500,000 in remaining grant funds. That's after they've completed the network as outlined in their grant agreement. That would allow them to activate service in areas where Make Ready is pending completion, build and launch service to eligible addresses under Act 71 that are not eligible under BEAD and do not have fiber available, and build routes that will either simplify or reduce the amount of Maple Broadband's bid for BEAD. So the expectation here is that this would allow Maple Broadband to build approximately 9 additional miles and 158 passings, and 97 of those passings would be eligible passings. So essentially, this is allowing Maple Broadband to use the remaining funds in their grant agreement to reach more addresses with fiber.
So do you need to go into executive session, Kay, or is that?
I think, well, we don't necessarily need to discuss any specific addresses. It's not part of their request. So,
Okay.
or I mean, the request is the 1-page memo that is in the board packet. So I'll leave it up to board members if they have more to discuss.
Christina, one question that I had is the 9 additional miles are, tell me, are they inside the universal service plan or is this new addresses?
That might be a question that I would need Alexi to help answer. I believe they're within the universal service plan. Yeah.
Yes.
And Tony has her hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm that they are part of the universal service plan.
Okay, so this
Great,
is moving addresses from phase 3 into phase 2. Is that a fair characterization?
Do we have somebody from Maple on the call here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
There's
Yeah.
Ellie.
Is this Ellie?
Yep.
So Ellie, the way I understand this, and let me frame the question a little bit. I understand the ask is for the end of phase 2. You have roughly $500,000 of grant money left over, and you're going to reach. Your idea would be to reach an additional 9 miles, 158 passings. Are those passings part of your phase 3 for universal service, or are these outside what you anticipated serving through the ARPA dollars?
So our existing grant is what we anticipated serving with the ARPA dollars, and essentially we're anticipating finishing under budget. And so conceptually, yes, we could call it a phase 3 of ARPA. But of course, when you get down to the end of the grant, it's very difficult to predict exactly how much you're going to build. But conceptually, you could think of it as an extension to our phase 2. Yes.
In the 9 miles and the 158 passings, were they part of the original universal service plan, or are they new addresses?
Well, our universal service plan is obviously for our entire district. And so it's not net new to that, because these are addresses that didn't have service when we started and still don't have service. So they are, some of them were actually part of our original planned phase 1, and we haven't been able to build them because we're waiting on some line rebuilds from Green Mountain Power. but we want to make sure that we're able to build to those addresses. So that's one of the examples that was in the letter.
Okay. All right, that helps. Thank you. Are there other questions from board members? Okay, hearing none. I'm gonna put a motion on the table so we can take action. I'm gonna put a motion that we approve Maple Broadband's request to use up to 500,000 of remaining grant funds for pursuit of building an additional 9 miles and 158 passings of the ARPA dollars. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carry 5-0. Congratulations, Maple.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you. And I
Good
want
job.
to publicly congratulate you for finishing under budget.
Yes, good job. Excellent.
Thank you very much. We're not quite there yet, but the end is very close. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Okay, so that's item 5. Let's now move to item 6, which is Waitsfield Champlain Vermont Telecom Construction Grant Amendment.
Yeah, I'll have Christina take this one as well. Go ahead, Christina.
Okay, thank you. This request from Waitsfield and Champlain Valley Telecom, WCBT, is allowing them to use the remaining $602,183 allocated to the non-CUD towns within WCVT's territory. And this would essentially help them to get to universal service by allowing them to pass every un- and underserved Act 71 eligible address by June 30th, 2026. So this would be an extension of their grant end date as well. So their grant end date is currently December 31st, 2025. So we would extend the grant date to June 30, 2026 and allocate an additional $602,183. And that is again, the remaining amount that is allocated to WCBT's non-CUD towns.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. Holly, you have your hand up. You want to go?
Sure. And I like your new haircut, Christina.
Oh, thank you.
So when I'm a little, this comes in 2 parts for me. One is the extension of the date for completion. The other is the additional funding. So do we know from Champlain Valley Telecom, if Champlain Waitsfield Valley, oh, you know who I mean. So the date of completion, would it be met without this extension? If we said no today, would they finish what they are doing by that date?
That is a good question. I don't feel that this request represents that they're behind on their current build out, and Rob has his hand up, and I know that he has been in touch with
Roger.
WCBT on more of the details.
Sure. They are having no issues completing their original grant. This grant amendment request can cover several hundred addresses with the grant money, but with their match money that's provided, it's going to allow them to pass every other address. They won't be able to pass every other address within the current time frame. So if it was left as the original grant, the timeline is correct. For this additional funds, they need the timeline extended in order to be able to achieve the goal.
Thank you.
Christine, a question for you relative to Waitsfield Champlain Valley Telecom's KPI numbers. Are there any issues in the KPI numbers that you would flag to be of concern?
No, I had this, I personally haven't seen those numbers, but they have been reported, and Alexi has reported that there are no issues at this point.
Okay. And the 602,000 and change is part of the funds that are allocated from ARPA dollars. They're basically ready and waiting for Waitsfield Champlain, correct?
Yes,
So they're not taken from any other CUD.
Correct.
Thank you for that. Any board members have any other questions? My last question will go to universal service, similar to what I just asked Maple. Maybe Roger can field this, or Christina. The 602,000, will that help achieve the existing universal service plan for addresses identified in the business plan, or is it bringing in any new addresses?
It is allowing us to pass additional addresses that weren't part of the original funding, part of the first part of the ARPA funding. So this will allow us to go past additional homes and put up mainline past those homes.
Roger, are some of these underserved, or can you characterize the additional homes? Do they already reach the definition of served, or are we picking up underserved off this?
They will be underserved. We'll go past some served, but they will be going to underserved and unserved.
Okay. Do you have numbers around that? How many addresses?
Right now, we are overall there are 12,000 addresses within the area. We had said that there are several that are eligible for BEAD. We're going to pass all of them to take them and commit to all of them. So in the end, we will pass all 12,000 lines. Approximately 2,800 already have fiber. So in this, we'll pass and when I say they already have fiber, they're actually served on fiber. So we'll get the other fiber by the other 9,000 homes.
So in your letter to us, it says an additional 2,900 locations that currently do not take service will be passed by fiber and connected to the network. So this 602,000 enables you to go buy another 2,900 homes. Is that accurate?
No, those are actually homes that we passed today, but we do not provide service to. So we will be passing them with fiber, but it will be part of the overall numbers in total.
Okay.
The total number of addresses that'll be passed by the grant and the amendment and the WCVT is 9,666. So that includes their original area, the other addresses that are still in towns they serve, but they hadn't been providing service currently.
So Rob, are you able to differentiate this 602,000 is going to enable Waitsfield to reach X number of homes? Is there a number associated with the 602,000 of additional homes?
I believe it was several hundred, but they are putting in of their own money, their own pledge of their own capital budget to complete the entire network.
Okay. All right. I think I'm good. Dan, you have your hand up.
Thank you. The 2,900, are those, I'm not sure I understood this correctly. Are they or underserved? Are they with a competitor's network? Are we overbuilding someone here?
So those are homes that are served by someone else besides us today. And if it's cable, they're considered served. What will happen is we'll pass those. And if any at any point in time decide to come to us with service, we will hook them up.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Holly.
We're technically supposed to apply the overbuild criteria here. So Tony, I haven't done this analysis, but perhaps you have.
Actually, CTC does that analysis for us, is my understanding. So it's my understanding that this has already been vetted and that any overbuild is in fact incidental and cost effective.
It
Yeah, I
doesn't
think
sound, it doesn't sound incidental the way Roger describes it. No offense, Roger, but you know.
So in this, Waitsfield's going to be putting in 20 million of its own dollars at a I'll say that's an estimate as of this point. So we're putting in a substantial amount, and we will ensure that the dollars, that the $600,000 are going to the portions of the jobs where they're unserved locations, and our own investment will go where there are the served.
That helps.
Yeah, that makes it sound like it's more incidental versus we're funding a competitive build out.
In no way are you funding a competitive build out. We are putting in substantial dollars to make everything happen, and we will take the dollars that we're putting in and make sure that we attribute those to those areas that are served.
That are underserved. Okay. All right, I'm going to put is there any more questions? Any more questions from the board?
Just real quick, Roger, when this is all built and done, what percentage of Waitsfield's overall system will be fiber at that point? Ballpark.
100% of the non-CUD area. So 12,000 out of about 21,000 addresses. When I add the Maple broadband area of our service area and our non-CUD area together. So 12 divided by 21.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
%57%.
Okay, I'm going to put a motion on the table that we approve Waitsfield Champlain Valley Telecom's construction grant amendment request of $602,183, which is their remaining Act 71 construction fund allocation, and that we extend their grant, extend their grant date from December 31, 2025 to June 30th, 2026, under the condition that the $602,183 granted are used for served locations. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Holly. Discussion. Any discussion? Laura?
Apologies. KPI provisions here.
They will, all
Yes.
grantees are required to comply with the policies of the board, and Waitsfield Champlain Valley Telecom is complying with the KPI policy.
We can also note that in the amendment specifically, as we've done for our other recent amendments.
And I am assuming that this also gets subject, it's our opportunity to once again make this grant subject to the policies of the board, as Christine said, but we do need that language.
Let's add that to the
Yes.
motion on the table.
That was also true of the prior motion as well regarding Maple.
It's in their letter.
Okay, good. Thanks.
We'll fix it, Holly.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. Congratulations, Waitsfield Champlain.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
And just for your ease, you can just refer to us as WCVT. So to make it easy for everyone, I should have told you that long ago.
I
I
always
think,
think it's the radio station. So, and Roger, I think it goes, perhaps should not go without saying how wonderful it is that WCDT is making this substantial investment. Thank you.
Thank you
You're
for that
welcome.
addition. Thank you for those additional words, Holly.
Thank you.
What are we gonna do without you, Holly? My gosh. Okay, that concludes WCVT's grant request, item 6 on our agenda. Now let's move to item 7, which is annual report.
Yeah, the annual report, again, this year we're working on it now. It's due to be given to the legislature by January 15th. But staff has started working on it now. We have not yet have a annual report policies. But the what's in the report is clearly defined in Act 71. We want to, as I said, we began preparing the report. We want to present it in December to the board for approval. And we don't think we would want the board to wait till there's a policy for us to start working on the report. We'd like to work on it now and share it with the board. And would the board like to appoint a new board member to head the annual report committee, since Holly was the chair and she is now leaving?
Well, I think that's too, if I might, Patty, can I jump
Go
in?
ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I think having somebody appointed to do that work is a totally separate question from the annual report itself. And you do have a draft, so you can follow. You should probably let the board know if there's things in that policy that you're not going to do in this edition. I also, isn't the due date of that report January?
January 15th, yes.
Right. So if the board gets it in December, I leave it to my colleagues to note whether or not that's enough advance warning to really feel good about review time for the report to the legislature. And I have sent an email to all of you this morning, in fact, moments ago, urging you to address affordability in your report this year, in part because affordability was raised by the state auditor's office, and also because while we might not have data from our grantees to report, we have done work to pass this policy. And I'm hoping that that work and the approach of the board can be reflected to show our accountability on affordability. Thanks.
All right, let's, just so the folks know, I'm turning off my camera because my phone is starting to heat up, and if it overheats, I will disappear from the meeting. So I'm trying to prevent that. So let's first take the annual report. Christine, tell me again what you're requesting for the annual report.
We're requesting, we're requesting some guidance. I think Holly's given us a little guidance. The point is we have the criteria spelled out in Act 215, and we have a draft Act 71, and we have a draft policy available. We will definitely pay attention to everything in that policy, but we want to come to you with a draft report in December. Get your modifications and present it to the legislature by January 15th.
Is it possible to get the report before December?
Well, I think we could start. Heron, Heron's doing the heavy lift on that. It'll fall on her, but I think we can certainly get a skeleton of what we think needs to be in there, and present that to the board to make sure we're working on the right thing. Does that work for you, Heron?
Yep, that makes sense to me.
Okay, I think that would be nice. As Holly pointed out, getting it in December may be too quick of a turnaround time for it to be filed on time. And obviously with the holidays and difficulty and making the meetings. So November would be great if we can get a draft, even if it's an outline, it'd be fabulous.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, because we wouldn't want to head down a path and find out we're on the wrong path by December. Thank you, Holly. That makes a lot of sense.
So secondarily on the annual report is, Holly has brought up that there is a working committee for the annual report, and there's a draft policy for the
Yes.
annual report. So tell us where that stands. Where's the draft in its life before it comes to the board?
Well, I haven't looked at it for a while, but Christine and I have talked about it, and of course, the committee work on it is, I feel, done. I would think that this is an excellent Tony question to bring back to you, and it would perhaps be really effective to do the annual report and then have the board in January look at its policy to find out what it wish it would have done or could have done differently. If you pass the policy, I agree with Christine, you can't pass the policy and have this all come together in time, because there's a lot of detail that's talked about that the annual report policy attempts to bring together all of the data reporting referenced in other policies. And I think we'll have a mini meltdown if we try to do all of that at once. So that's why I'm suggesting that maybe you want to wait till a successor, so you complete board and wait for a successor to talk about the annual report or not, or perhaps Tony could be helping the board come to a conclusion on that policy. But I would do it after the annual report.
I think that's good advice, Holly. Tony, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Thank you, Patty. No, I was just going to confirm that the policy looks like it's very close to final. The board just hasn't had an opportunity to vote on it. So I was just going to ask whether or not we should submit the policy as is to the board in the November packet and actually consider the merits of it in conjunction with the outline.
Tony, does the concern of taking up that policy at the same time that Heron's doing the work to write the annual report, does that concern ring true to you, that we could have a conflict?
I think that the last thing we want to do, obviously, is hold up this report. I don't think the focus should be applying the policy to this report. I'm just saying, since the policy looks pretty close to final to me now, it seems as though we're kind of putting the cart before the horse to start picking from the policy before the board has actually had a chance to adopt the policy. So at least we could, both the issues will be in front of the board. So it's just an opportunity to identify whether or not there are particular conflicts or whether the board wants to go ahead and pass the policy.
Laura, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not sure I've seen this draft policy. Is it in our files online?
No, it has not been posted yet for public comment or anything.
Can that be shared with the board, please?
Yes.
So Laura, the question we're trying to tease out is whether we take up the annual report policy before this year's annual report is filed. And what we're trying to do is not run into a conflict with Heron's working on an annual report for this year, for 2024. And then we're also taking up a policy, and you don't want both of those paths to basically come to a head-on collision. You don't want to slow down the fact that we've got a report that's due to the legislature in mid-January.
Right.
So I think we could look at the policy in November. I wouldn't want to take action on it because we need to read it. So put it in the board packet for November. And then maybe we decide on the policy for the December meeting or the January meeting. But everyone should be in the mindset that this policy is for the next annual report, not the one that staff is working on currently. Is that fair?
Thank you, Patty.
Any board member have a concern with that?
No,
approach?
that makes a lot of sense to me,
Okay.
since the report is for the legislature and we're running out of runway for the board to have a good discussion before then, so.
Exactly. Okay, good. So let's pursue that path then. We'll take them both, but this policy does not affect this year's annual report writing. Okay, anything else on the annual report we want to discuss? Okay, hearing nothing. Silence. Let's move on to item 8 for the agenda, which is an update on the workforce development program.
Yes, I'll share my screen. I apologize. Slide 1, if you look at it, the second slide has what appears to be a word mess in it. I'm not sure how it ended up in the packet. It's definitely, I take ownership for it. But the one I present you now is clean. And we'll make sure it gets updated. Hang on, let me share my screen. Here we go. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I see black, nothing.
Should be coming up for you, Laura. Depends on your internet connection. Nothing yet?
I have it.
Yeah, I can see it here on my screen.
So anyway, this the team that's working on this, I have to give credit to Lucy Fortier and Heron and myself for the team on this, and definitely appreciate Lucy and Heron's aggressive commitment, and they're really, I think, and highly involved. So anyway, I'll actually, for your sake, Laura, I'll actually read the words on the screen.
So Christine, I think I'm looking at it, right? It was in the board packet?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the key points, the first two are a little bit of a mess in your board packet. So I'll read those
Okay.
aloud for you. So 42.5 billion will be infused into the economy during 2025 with a priority to construct fiber networks. According to the NTIA, the Fiber Broadband Association projects that this will require 205,000 fiber optic technicians over the next 5 years to meet the demand. That's still a little confusing, sorry, but that's the NTI and the FBA both agree on those numbers. As of today, other than make-ready work from municipal utilities, the workforce has not been a major issue for Vermont. With historically low unemployment and competition for workers, recruitment is critical, and we believe it will be a significant problem once that 42.5 billion hits the economy.
So Christine, the numbers you're talking about here are national, correct?
Yes, for Vermont, we're looking at 200 additional fiber technicians, and that means we have to train about 600 to get to 200. Now,
Okay.
that where we are incremented, if you take the NTI numbers and bring them down to Vermont for the fiber technicians alone, they project about 697 additional jobs in the state, but we're focusing on fiber optic techs at this point. So what's the increment between where we are today with the number of fiber techs we have running around the state of Vermont, which is quite a few, and where we need to be tomorrow? I don't know those numbers. And what complicates it even further is the fact that a lot of the fiber technicians helping us out in Vermont right now are working for contractors who could be pulled into other areas. So the point being here, getting down to a specific number will be difficult. The issue, however, is that we anticipate when this money hits, we get the competition from the rest of New England. We need to pay attention to this, and we are paying attention to this. Does that answer your question?
Sure.
Yep. So WIA was key to helping set up a 5-week, 10 full days with 10 evening sessions certified training programs, part of the requirement of a Vermont Department of Labor grant that was issued by the legislature. And we worked closely with the VDOL on this. And after extensive outreach, and I would say we did significant outreach to recruit people, the first class that was offered in the GMP offices only had 4 candidates show up. And we knew we needed to make a decision at that point because we'd significant investments of that grant were put together to provide this training. So we, the Department of Labor and the WIA, moved quickly to establish a 2,000-hour on-the-job apprenticeship that would include the required classroom certifications. So what we're saying here is this grant was set up by the legislature. We're following the grant to a T. It was all about classroom training. But if you look at, Vermont's unemployment rate and the competition for jobs, people can't afford to leave jobs and go through this training before they get a job. So what we've done, we've taken this 2,000-hour apprenticeship is a USDOL, U.S. Department of Labor certified apprenticeship, can go anywhere. It'll include the 144-hour classroom training as part of that agreement. And our contractors are signing up for these apprenticeship programs. We already have one Certex that is signed up, and we're working with a number of additional who are signing up as we speak. So we think this is a much better offering. And so that's how we reacted to the fact that we realized we're not going to get people to just show up to classroom training. North Country Career Center has been certified to offer this training throughout the entire state. So we're reaching out to different groups to offer this training in various parts of the state. And the WIA has provided the guidance and direction and the support that we needed to have this federally recognized program with the employers. And I just kind of jumped and talked about Certex. That was the heavy lift, and we've accomplished that. And WIA, we chose WIA because they manage 109 apprenticeship programs nationwide in various different professions. But we don't, we've ceased our relationship with DIA. We basically don't have the budget to continue that relationship, but we don't think that's necessarily going to be a problem moving forward. We certainly appreciate they got us to where we are, and we certainly appreciate that.
Christine, remind me, do we have a financial piece of this? Does the VCBB put money up for the training?
Not as of this point. It's been funded through the VDOL.
Okay.
Yeah. We are spending, a little bit here for marketing and advertising, but it's.
But nothing out of the ARPA pot is going toward the workforce development training.
No.
Okay.
Nothing out of the ARPA pot. Yep.
Thank you.
So this is kind of a timeline. We established the workforce development team 2022. We had IBEW, CWA, and other telecom providers. We established a training advisory board. We got the grant that was issued to Vermont Technical College. VTC joined our workforce team. We developed a training curriculum with the Fiber Broadband Association. National certification was established. After many changes at VTC, this is kind of a reminder to the board that was involved with this, and the transition to the Vermont State University, the VDL grant was transferred to the VCBB because there just weren't resources there to handle it. And then we did the whole recruitment for training and offered the training, and you heard the results of that. So we had low participation. We developed the apprenticeship program. We developed in Q3 of last year, just I think it was in, I don't remember the exact month, something March or April. We delivered a workshop with 53 participants. And the North Country Career Center became certified for pre-apprenticeship training. The first employer was signed, recruitment process phase begun. That workshop was key. It was an all-day workshop. We invited any of the potential BEAD participant contractors to join the workshop. There's also the reason this is related to BEAD is because in the BEAD requirements, there is a requirement to address workforce. So we had a good turnout, good response. We're now doing recruitment booths at job fairs. We've established a formal relationship with Vermont Works for Women. We're establishing a program with correctional facilities, and we're continuing to sign up employers. Next step, we want to ensure BEAD compliance to the workforce requirements. We've already actually yesterday started kicking off some work with career technical education centers. And we're going to reach out to Vermont Community College to develop a curriculum, and that is to bring young people into the workforce. And the next step, finally, Q2 25, we're going to focus on a pay it forward program. So we've started some informal discussions with employers to say, if people stay for an X period of time, will you kick back money to fund future training? And we think that's something we can formalize, but we just don't have the resources to do it yet. And we're going to support the digital equity grant, also addresses some workforce programs. So that's our timeline. I'll take any further questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Christine. That was helpful to go through this. Any questions of the board? Okay, Holly, go ahead.
So Christine, when you're tabling and attending conferences and so, who is actually doing that?
Well, I'm the primary focus for doing it as we speak. Heron and Lucy are definitely helping out. So yeah.
So when we say we're not using our appropriation or our ARPA grant funds for this purpose, we are using our staff and therefore our dollars, right?
Yes, I'm funded through USF.
Yeah. Okay.
And
yeah. And what can you speak at all to the tie-in between workforce and DEI, or is this really just a shorthand for equal opportunity employment?
Well, I think it's actually a requirement in the BEAD program to comply with these. I'm not sure if Alexi would be able to speak more to it, but Tony, maybe you could speak to that. There's actually requirements in the BEAD program for having workforce development programs, and there's a requirement for the state broadband offices to help provide that training and support.
Okay, that's enough for me.
Okay.
Tony, before you go, just a quick question, Christine. How many hours of your staff time do you feel are devoted to the workforce development piece? How much of your time is consumed? I
would say it ranges. I would say the past couple of weeks, it's been about a quarter of my time. No, 1 out of 4. Yeah, 40 hours, 10 hours a week. Yeah.
And then prior to that, is it insignificant?
It was insignificant prior to that.
Okay, so we're not talking huge amount of staff time.
Right.
Correct?
Yes, and by the way, the time I'm spending now is really to build the process. I don't plan on being that involved long term.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Tony, I cut you off. You want to go?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you very much, Christine. Let's now move on to item 9 in the agenda, which is a legislative update. And is Gwen going to join us?
Yeah, Gwen will present this. She's going to do a recap of the 2024 in public session, and the executive session will be used to hear Gwen's input on the staff initiatives that were recommended and first introduced in the September meeting. And modified as provided the board packet. But the board clearly in executive section is going to provide a direction to the board over which initiatives we recommended that you would approve us moving forward, or what additional initiatives you think we should be working on. And Gwen,
Okay,
why don't
so
you take?
yeah, so Gwen, what we're trying to do is balance being in public and being transparent enough to tell folks what we're going to be up to in the next legislative session, but we don't want to go into any strategy or any sort of discussion that hinders us as we move forward. So it's a balancing act. And I just want you to keep that in mind as you're going through the information to us. And if we start going down the road of strategy, I want to cut that, because that I don't want to play my hand in all my cards to say this is what we're going to be doing at the legislative session. But at the same time, the public should be aware of what topics we're looking at and considering. Does that make sense?
100%.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Hi, everyone. Gwen here. Just as Christine set it up, I'm just going to sort of go over what happened this past legislative session, just sort of get your heads back in the legislative game. So I say last year, but it really was earlier this year. This past legislative session, there were a bunch of bills. The first one, as you'll recall, we got kind of started really early because we were involved in the FY24 Budget Adjustment Act. Remember that there was the borrowing of the VCB money for the flood recovery, and then getting that money back. So that was successful. That was Act 87. The other big money bill that had initiatives from the VCBBs, at least for the funding perspective, was the big bill, the big budget bill, Act 113, and that was generally the state budget bill that had all of the funding to the Vermont Community Broadband Board just at large, and just the operations that the state funds, and that was signed into law back on the 23rd of May. In terms of policy bills, the first bill that the board was also involved in to a certain degree was Act 99. That was S199. That was the bill that dealt with the merger and governance of the CUDs. That dealt with sort of how what the process and procedures were for the merger of the CUDs moving forward, being able to adjust their annual meeting dates, allow for the treasurer to delegate duties under certain circumstances, dealt with adjustments to the Public Record Act and confidential business records. And so we were supportive and helpful in that conversation as well. And that bill also got passed into law. The next one, which was sort of a policy / money bill that also went through the legislature successfully, was Act 145, that, if you recall, is H657. And there was a lot going on in that bill, but as it relates to the VCBB, there was a repeal of the 2.4% universal service charge for landlines, postpaid wireless, and VoIP customers, and it replaced it with a different monthly charge per access line. What that means for the VCBB is that new funding calculation for how the money comes in through for the universal service charge, that increased how much money the VCBB is getting moving forward. That adjustment overall for the state created a $3 million increase to revenues. And that's, those are projections, but they're anticipating that about $3 million increase across the board. What that means for this VCBB is that historic, as of FY23, the VCBB received $820,000 from that, the previous USC charge. Moving forward, the new calculation will increase the funding to $1.35 million. So that's just over a $500,000 increase in revenues that the VCBB can anticipate, which is pretty exciting. There is also a waterfall. Any money left over, I mean, the money is going to go to, E911, suicide prevention line, Lifeline, and a few other things. But any leftover money, if any money is left over, it will waterfall into the connectivity fund, but we won't know what that looks like. So those bills that I just went through, those are the big bills that we were following last year and were actively participating in. The last thing I wanted to sort of tee up in terms of looking forward, and it's no secret this was a very active conversation in the State House that the VCBB was also involved in. We've already talked about it in the meeting. Was affordability and what that looks like in the broadband world. So, in the beginning of session, it rolled into the end of session. We knew that the affordability connectivity program was set to end in May 2024. So there were active conversations in the State House about how we could do something as a state to pick up where the feds were leaving off. So the legislature and the VCBB, we had discussions as well as other stakeholders, but there was no legislative solutions to an alternative program legislatively last year. So I would anticipate this conversation moving forward into the next biennium. It's unclear exactly what that would look like, but that might be something the VCBB will want to weigh in on. So I say those things because at the last board meeting, you had asked that we sort of, look ahead. And I looked at all the bills that the VCB had been involved in. And really, this was the only initiative that was sort of left on the table, or something that I would describe as being left on the table. So we're sort of, to a certain degree, starting from a clean slate other than the affordability initiative and other, bills that were left on the wall from last year. If, sponsors want to take them up again, or, put new proposals forward that are similar to old proposals, we'll just have to wait and see what that looks like.
Okay, thank you very much, Gwen. Comments, questions from board members? Holly?
Hi, Gwen. On the last bill you discussed, wasn't some of the funding allocated to the PEG access organizations?
Yeah, that was a different component of the bill. And that came from, if I recall correctly, I think that was state funding that wasn't out. It wasn't coming from the Universal Service Fund. So this is a different section of the bill. I didn't go over the other parts of the bill that weren't related to the VCBB, but you are correct. There is, I want to say, $1 million that they might have access to if they are able to put a report before the legislature to justify that. But that's separate and distinct from funding to the VCBB.
It just, I'm sure this is not lost on you, but it just grinds me a little bit that we're worried about content creation at a level when content is being created everywhere all the time. And what we really need is money for affordable rates. So not lost on you, I'm sure.
Okay, other questions or comments? Christine, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, not at this point.
Okay. Okay. All right. Hearing no other comments, we can move on. Do we need to go into executive session for anything, Christine?
Not unless the board members do. I see Laura shaking her head.
So it might be helpful for me to weigh in here, is that I know that at the last meeting, VCBB staff had put forward some proposals that they were interested in pursuing. And so I've been, speaking with staff sort of in the interim, coming up with sort of a strategy for how we might address some of these issues and get some board input. I think, from my perspective, I'm not Tony here, so I'll leave that up to legal counsel to make this determination. But I think if the board wants to talk about strategy moving forward, about other initiatives, I think it might make sense to head into executive session to at least hash those out, and any decisions being made, then obviously you would deal with an open session.
Okay,
Yes,
let's
thank
do
you.
that. I think we should do that then. If there's a direction that you're headed, we should all know about that before you get into the legislative session. I'll put a motion that we move into executive session to continue legislative discussions on strategy. pursuant to 1 VSA Section 313A6A, which protects records exempt from the access to the public records law. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to include staff with that.
Okay.
And
thank
Gwen.
you.
And Tony, I just want to make a footnote that this basis for executive session, I looked that up and tried to make sense out of it, and I didn't get very far. It didn't make any sense to me. It entwines 313A6A with section 316. And so before we use this basis for executive session again, would you just check it, please?
Yes, we'll do.
Are you asking Holly for her to do that right now, or?
Nope. I'm saying if it's not contested and nobody's objecting, let's go ahead, but let's be
Okay.
sure we're right.
All right. We can correct the acts or the reference to the Vermont statutes annotated, whatever we use for the appropriate section. Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of moving into executive session, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. So we'll move to executive session.
You should be moving shortly.
Thank Karen, are you in the public session?
Yes, I am.
I dropped out of the executive
Oh.
session. And is there a way to get pushed back over there?
Yep, I can put you back in.
Thank you so much. Are we all set to go, Christine?
Checking out. We've got. Yes, we are.
Okay, we are now out of executive session where we took up legislative matters. There was no specific action taken in executive session on legislative update. So we are now concluded with item 9 of our agenda. Let's now move on to item 10, which is the parking lot.
Yep, and Ginny, I'll turn this over to you.
Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So hi everyone. Going to talk about the parking lot and the things that staff has been able to accomplish.
Ginny, can you go into presentation mode?
I'm sorry, I thought I did. There we go.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks for letting me know. Okay. So on this slide are parking lot items that have been addressed either in today's agenda and or the board packet. So number 97, 100, and 101 are similar, speaking to the legislative priorities we just discussed. And then 98 and 99 are essentially the same task, and that memo was included in the board packet for review.
Was that in our board packet?
I'm 99%
Tony-
sure it was, but I'll review that.
The confidential memorandum to be included in the October board packet, BEAD affordability scoring rubric. What exactly, which one? I thought the memo was Tony's memo on BEAD.
That's correct.
Yep.
I did not see Tony's memo. Did I miss that?
It's in the packet.
Okay, I guess I missed it. I'm sorry.
You've already read it months ago. That's why.
Yeah, but I don't see it. I don't see it in here.
I don't either.
I just pulled it off of OneDrive. I'm sorry. We will definitely double check and.
I just don't see it in the packet. So it's something that item is not done.
That would be my fault. I apologize. Would you like it added to the next board packet for November?
Yes, because I'd like that to be
Okay.
a public document and everybody to have a chance to read that. That's part of, part of participating in our meetings. So let's definitely put that in the next board packet.
Absolutely. My apologies. I thought it was in there.
Patty, since I love affordability so much, would you mind if Ginny sent that to me separately?
I don't mind at all. Happy to have that happen.
Thank you.
Happy to do that, Holly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what you see on your screen right now is items that have been completed. Staff continues to prioritize and resolve the parking lot items. I won't read through them all, but what I would like the board to know is that, especially on number 92, the review of the KPI scorecard has been marked completed on the parking lot. But that doesn't mean that it is out of the staff's mind. It definitely is in the forefront, and the staff will continue to bring the board this information requested and report to the board both informally monthly and formally quarterly as previously asked.
Thank you.
Number 40 continues to be in progress, and staff is prioritizing tasks as appropriate. And that is it.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the parking lot? And I really appreciate this checking in of the parking lot and going through this each time. It's just really helpful to keep track of all the things we have posted. Any board members have comments? Okay, let's keep moving then. So that moves us now to item 11 on our agenda, which is the BEAD timeline update.
Yeah, that there have been no changes to that timeline, so I don't think we necessarily need to address it. We're keeping it in the board packet for information purposes. We do anticipate changes for the November meeting, and we're working with the NTIA on that.
Okay. Any critical issues happening, Christine, on the timeline?
Nothing critical in relation to the timeline
Okay.
Any changes that are occurring is because negotiations between us and the NTIA.
Okay. Great. Any other board members have comments or questions on the timeline? Okay. Let's move on then. Let's do our next item, which is item 12 and Vikuda update. Rob Vitsky.
Good afternoon. This will be a pretty quick update. I do have some public comments related to BEAD at the end. A lot of our attention has been elsewhere the last couple of weeks. In terms of our public comment today, I just wanted to highlight and kind of sync up a little bit with some of the comments that you all had about the legislative agenda. We are continuing to work with Matt Coda and kind of developing our plan for this year. And, like what Gwen did earlier, recognizing we had a couple of big activity last year between the restoration of the match funds and the mergers and technical corrections bill. We don't have anything big like that this year, but we are tracking a number of changes that started to arise last year in terms of regulatory changes, tax changes, and subsidy program changes that we think we're going to require some continued attention if they come back this year. And so I would just say on that, as you all get farther along, we usually try to touch base with Laura and with staff about that, and we'll make sure that Matt touches base with Gwen as we get our agenda a little bit more firmed up.
Great. The
other item I have is just an announcement that Memorial FiberNet is very close to completing phase 1 of their universal service plan. They're super excited about that, as are we. 95% of the addresses that were unserved and underserved in Memorial will be covered by this, including 100% of the chronically underserved towns of Eden, Belvedere, and Waterville. And they are planning a celebration on October 21st at the Johnson Stone Center, and wanted to send a thank you. Lisa's out of town, but wanted to send thank you to you all and invite you to that celebration.
Awesome.
I think that's it for Vikuda comments today, unless there are any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Any questions of Rob? And that's fabulous news about Lamoille. Okay, let's now move on to item 13 on the agenda, which is public comment.
Yep, this is time for public comment. Anybody wants to make a comment, please raise your hand and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I see Rob, you've got your Rob Vitsky, you have your hand up.
Thank you. We were asked to always do our BEAD comments in public comment section, and so that's what I'm doing. I just wanted to comment that Vikuda filed, along with a number of CEDs last week, comments on the draft RFA that will be used to solicit applications for the BEAD process. It's a great document, obviously an enormous amount of work that went into it. We wanted to highlight for the board a couple of things probably that are really important to us. First of all, a number of states have started to adopt an approach of fixed subawards where payments and reimbursements are made on a milestone basis. And there's an ability for providers to draw down even before work starts. The first milestone being signing of the contract. And for small providers, this is a really helpful program that a number of states have really leaned into to help small providers participate in the program. So VCBB's approach appears to allow both full reimbursement and milestone-based. We're a big fan of the milestone-based under fixed subawards. I think the other quick 2 things that we wanted to comment on were that there was a little bit of confusion in the language about consortiums and how those could work. We filed some comments about clarifications that we thought were important. Also in the area of letter of credit alternatives, some clarifications that were important. There are a number of other technical corrections throughout the document, but again, kudos to the team for taking the very complicated Volume 2 and turning it into an application. We understand this is the one that counts, and this is the one that will kind of supersede the Volume 2 language, and so it's important to get it right, and we appreciate all the hard work that went into getting it this far. I think that's it.
Thanks. Anybody else like to make a comment? from the public? Raise your hand, please. Okay, seeing no hands raised, I think we're ready to move to the next part of our agenda.
Okay, thank you very much for the public comment. Next item on our agenda is item 14, is confirming our next board meeting of November 18th, 2024 virtually. Are all board members able to attend, obviously with the exception of Holly, unless you want to come in as a general public?
I may come in as general public, you never know, but no commitments here.
Okay, all right. Dan and Laura, you're good?
I'm good.
Excellent. Okay, so 18th it is. Next on our, let's keep moving. Next on our agenda is item 15, which is a proposed board resolution thanking Holly Groschner for her service. I'm going to make a motion and read, before I make the motion, I'm going to read the resolution in front of us in our packet for the record. The Vermont Community Broadband Board resolution honoring Holly E. Groschner. Whereas the Vermont Community Broadband Board was created by the Vermont General Assembly to coordinate, facilitate, support, and accelerate the development and implementation of universal community broadband solutions, broadband deployment, pursuant to 30 VSA Section 8081, see generally Act 71. And whereas the board is comprised of 5 members, with 2 members appointed by the governor, 1 appointed by the Senate Committee on Committees, 1 appointed by the Speaker of the House, and 1 appointed by the Vermont Communications Union District Association. And whereas Holly E. Groschner, Ms. Groschner, was appointed in 2021 by the Speaker of the House and reappointed by the Speaker on February 1st, 2024. And whereas Ms. Groschner brought immense intelligence, legal acumen, deep understanding of technical and financial matters, a keen sense of humor to the board meetings. And whereas Ms. Groschner was always well prepared and engaged in the critically important issues being deliberated by the board. And whereas Ms. Groschner demonstrated tremendous commitment to developing accountability policies, focusing on issues including reliability, high quality, and affordability. And whereas Ms. Groschner worked tirelessly on behalf of all Vermonters and with steadfast commitment for policies that support affordable broadband. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the board expresses its immense gratitude to Ms. Groschner for her exemplary work, dedication, years of service, and fellowship on the board, and wish her the best in her future endeavors. I make a motion that we approve this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Is there discussion?
I'd just like to weigh in. Holly, you're a total pain in the neck, and I'm going to miss you dearly, dearly. And I love being able to work with you and bounce ideas and argue with you and bang my head against the wall and come back and realize you were right. But thank you for everything, and we're really going to miss you.
Well said, Brian.
I could not improve on that, Holly. Really going to miss you. Thank you so much for serving as an initial board member and all that you have brought to helping our CUDs and us get our act together and get moving. And sometimes you are a pain in the neck, and as one myself, I really appreciate that. So
Thank you, Holly.
Well, this may be the most embarrassing moment of my entire life. And it's definitely the best job review I've ever had. So, I have a lot of respect for my colleagues on the board, and I do trust you to do the right thing moving forward. And I know that the staff will do the right thing, and that the CUDs are going to be working as hard as they ever have. And with all of that happening, I feel very confident that Vermont will get the broadband it deserves. So thank you so very much for creating this initiative, Laura. Thank you very much, Christine, for setting it up out of whole cloth. And thanks to my fellow board members, you know, Patty, for your leadership, and Dan and Brian, you know, if you weren't here to sprinkle a little reality juice on me every now and then, I probably be, we wouldn't get moving forward. And I'd also like to throw out a special thank you to Tony Clithrow, who has taken up the very important and difficult role of balancing policy, procedure, the law with our practice. So thank you to each of you and to the staff. And of course, it wouldn't be fair if I couldn't say something about affordability before leaving. I will be watching you. And I know that affordability is going to be the challenge underpinning this entire endeavor. But with good faith effort to keep affordability in mind, we will make progress. See my email of earlier today. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Holly. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? I'm not even going to ask that. Holly, are you going to vote or are you going to abstain?
Oh, I'm going to abstain. I thought about making an amendment, but
resolution passes 4-0 with Holly abstaining. We're going to miss you tremendously, Holly.
Patty, can I actually get a copy of that document with your
Yes.
signature on it?
I'm going to sign it and we're going to send it to you.
Oh, how sweet. Very nice.
Absolutely.
It will be in my office.
Sweet. We'll have it framed too.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Christine, I'm committing staff to doing some things.
That was what we wanted to do anyway, so that's great.
Good.
That's
Good,
super.
good.
Thank you very much.
So I will just let, just a quick update on Holly's vacancy. I'm in touch with the Speaker of the House, and we have a few names that we're floating by, and we hope to have a decision soon, but it's in the Speaker of the House's wheelhouse to make that decision. But we've put names in front of the Speaker, and we hope to have action pretty soon. We have some really tremendous candidates. They're not going to be Holly, but
None that can compare, though.
Oh, come on now. Actually, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
okay, we are going to miss you, Holly.
Well, thank you. I'll miss you too.
Okay, so that concludes our regular meeting matters. At the end of each board meeting, we go into executive session and deal with some personnel items as part of that executive session. And we will do that now. And I'm making a motion that we move into executive session per 1 VSA section 313A33, authorizing a public body to hold an executive session to consider personnel matters. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Okay.
Thank you. Well, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it would just be board members. Tony, I don't think that we need you today. It would just be board members.
Okay, Ginny, we'll move you into
Bye.
executive session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Christine, you don't need to be in there either, or
No,
should
no,
you? Okay, perfect.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. You should be moving shortly.
So if we have anybody who's like, I'm waiting for the doors for the first time. That's you.
So for the rest of the, at this point, you know, what happens is we lose a quorum, so I think we can call the meeting.
Okay, I will stop recording and close.
Okay, thank you.